Hi, I'm Tom Jones and welcome to another free art lesson. I've got one that I think you'll enjoy here. I'm going to show you how to paint an interesting gate. It's going to have a gate that's sort of hidden under some floral. It's going to have a wall here, a stucco wall, and a dark area behind the wall, and then it's got a little sidewalk in front. Again, I go back to the idea that if you're going to paint a subject matter, make it interesting. Don't paint the routine or what people would expect to see. Paint the unexpected ideas. So let's go with this little gate idea. I'm going to start with a floral area here. It can be a clinging rose or bougainvillea or whatever you want it to be. But I'm going to start with some fresh, nice, bright color on the particular area, and I'm going to change color often. I've just put down some light green, and now I'm going to switch and have maybe a little yellow area. I'm going to have maybe this area over here a little warmer and brighter on this side over here, and maybe a little darker on this side. I'm going to pick up some of my Hooker Green Deep, which is a darker green, and we'll put some of that on there as well on this side over here in shadow. We'll have a little bit of the darker underneath, and then once I've got that, I can come in and dry this area, and then I can start putting the other colors around it. So let me go ahead and dry this right now, and I'll be right back. Now, the floral area is dry. This is where the greenery area is in the painting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach doing this wall, and I'm going to do this in some light warm colors. I'm going to pick up as an example some of my yellow ochre, and we'll put a couple of brush strokes of yellow ochre on the painting. I'll come over and I'll grab a couple of brush strokes of my sienna, my burnt sienna, and we'll use a little bit of that color in the stucco wall as well. Then what I'll do is I'll come back and grab a little bit of my orange, and we'll have a little touch of the orange in the painting as well. Now I'm leaving a lot of white space, as you can see, on this stucco wall, and I'm doing that for a reason. It's to help make it look more like a stucco wall. I'm going to take some of my quinacridone rose, which is my red color here, rose color, add some ultramarine blue deep to it. I'll have that available. Then I'll come over and pick up maybe a little more of my burnt sienna, and we'll have a little more burnt sienna. Now as I get closer to this area of the floral here, I'm going to get a little darker with my color. And I want to do this now while this whole area is wet. But the reason for it is I want to showcase this greenery. In order to do that, the color next to it has to be brighter and darker. So all I'm doing is I'm pushing the color into this particular area of the floral, and you can now see that edge of that floral. Let me take some more of my sienna color, and then just come over here and just blend some of this color away from that area like this. And then I can just spend a couple more minutes here and just create the little edge of that floral area there. Now it's nice and light on this side because the light's hitting it. Let's come over and paint a little bit of this color up underneath and get some more color out, my sienna, my reds, so forth. Let me come up underneath this area of the gate and put some color there. Now when I get close to this floral again, I want a darker color because I want this color to be showcased. And in order for that to happen, I have to have a darker color next to it. So I'm going to come up and just create the edge of where that floral is again. And you'll see, if you close one eye, you'll be able to see that area of floral. Same thing over here. Continue on with this interesting color. Pull the color up again. Create that interesting edge to the floral area. Keep the colors nice and fresh and bright. Filling in a couple of areas here and there. I'm leaving a little white space, as you can see, and I'm doing that on purpose because I want a textured look. In order to get that textured look, I've got to have some of that white space around the edges of the, around that wall on both sides, this side and that side. So I'll show you how I do that in a minute. A little change of color there. All right, now I've got that done. I'm going to come up above and I'm going to put a darker color above. So I want to take my larger brush. In this case, I'll pick up my, let me put this over here. Pick up my 1-inch flat brush, and I'm going to come up above here, and I want some interesting color above. So I'm going to choose some of my Prussian blue with a little bit of the rose color as an example, And we'll come up here and just paint this interesting area up here. I'll take some of my Hooker green and put some of that in. We want an interesting area back there. Come back, pick up a little bit more of my Prussian blue. Paint a little bit of that area in there as well. I'm changing color often again. I'm always changing color in my paintings. Every 1.5 inches to 2 inches, I basically want a color change going on to make it more interesting. Come back, do some more of the dark color. I'll pick up, in this case, some more of the Hooker Green Deep. We'll put a little of that color in the mix as well. I'll come back up along this fence here and get the edge of that fence right along the top of it. I want a nice, clean, crisp area there, or sharp edge, I should say. Right along the top. Now what I'll do is finish this out over here. I'll come in and paint around my area of the floral in a minute. Back to the Prussian blue again. We'll pick up a little more of the rose. Put a little of that color back in there. Now I'm going to go down to a smaller brush. I'm going to go down to my 1/2 inch brush. In this case, I'll pull some of the floral down. My 1/2 inch flat brush. And I'm just going to pull some of this color down and create the edge of the floral here. I'm just pulling it toward me. Some of the hairs are pulling away from the main body of this particular brush. And I'm going to come down and pick up the floral. Now, that's simply how I would approach doing this area right here. I'm going to have some more work on this area of the wall down here, and I'll put some more color where you see all these white spots up here as well. Now what I need to do is dry the entire painting. Then I'll come in and I'll put the look of detail in there for you. Now the painting is dry, and I'm going to come in and put some finishing touches on this. One of the things I want to do is I'm going to take my 1/2 inch brush to start with. I'm going to pick up some ultramarine or a Hooker Green Deep with just a touch of the ultramarine blue to darken it just slightly. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a darker area along the bottom of this particular floral area because it's away from the light source. And I'm just scraping the color in. See how I do that? Just scrape it in. So it's going to be darker away from the light source, lighter in this area over here. And I scrape it in because it just gives a more of a rough texture to it, and that way it looks a little more natural. Okay, lighter over here, darker over here. Now I want to come back in. I'm going to take some darks and make this even a little richer here. Let me clean up some of this color out of the palette here because it's going to get a little muddy if I'm not careful. Let me take some of the color, and I'll take some of my quinacridone rose again. I'll take some of my ultramarine blue deep and some of my burnt sienna. That gives me a nice, rich, deep, dark color that I'm looking for. I can come back in under the floral area here and just put some more dark under here just to create that shadow look back under here. Take my 1/2 inch brush, some tissue, and I'm just going to pull this color away a little bit here. Just a little bit. Pull it away from the floral area. And look at all the textures already that I've created there. Mix up some more color, keep it nice and fresh. I'm always mixing color in my palette because I want to keep the colors fresh. Add a little sienna in there, a little burnt sienna to give it a little bit more of a brownish tint. And again, I'll pull back away from that area just to soften that edge. I'll have to dry this again before I go too much farther, but I needed to darken right along this edge just a little stronger than it was. I'll dry it one more time, then I'll put some detail into that wall for you. Now it dries pretty quickly, so I got lucky there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in now and put in, let me change and get a little cleaner water here. I'm going to come in and I'm going to put some color in the wall over here. So take a little bit of my orangey red, a little bit of my ochre, and we'll put a nice interesting glaze over some of this area of the wall to create a little more interest, to make it look a little more like stucco. We'll tone it down just a little bit to give a roughness to the wall. I'm going to come up under the gate here and I'm going to start putting in some interesting darks here and start shaping this particular gate area. There's a little area here where there's a board that comes down, so we'll darken that area. Then on the gate itself, we'll put a couple of little cracks in where the wooden gate is. So we have that. And then over on this side, we've also got one that's a shadow side of this particular case. It's really the casing that holds the gate in place there. And then on this side, I've got an area where I want to make this a little darker next to where the board comes down. So we'll pull that color away. And you can see now where the face of that board is there. Over here, I've got another board. And you can see now where the face of that board is. We'll lift out a little color there as well. Now, I'm going to let this dry for a moment. I'm going to do the sidewalk area first. And then I'm going to come up and put a little information up here that will help you as well. Start with the yellow ochre and just drag in a little bit of color for the top of this sidewalk. Then I'll come back, get a little bit of my sienna color, get a little darker. Now there's a lot of texture in the sidewalk, so we want to keep that, and we want to keep some of the white area as well. So we'll keep that simple. Now let me dry this, and then I'm going to come back and put the finishing touches on it for you. Now it is dry, and let me get this situated so you can see it. I'm going to do a couple of things. See the little white marks I've got in areas like this? I'm going to take a little cerulean blue, in this case, and just put a little glaze across those, and that will tone those areas down. They'll still be there. It'll still look like texture, but it won't jump out at you. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my spray bottles that has some color in it, and I'm going to come in and put a little area here with some dots. So I'm going to spray this little area with dots to get a little more of a leafy, lacy look right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to lift some color. I'm going to just take water on my brush, number 8 round brush, a little water on my brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to lift out some color in a couple places. On the face of this board right here, I'm going to just paint water on it. Then I can come in and just pick up that color and lift it out. Now you can see it. Same thing here. I'm going to just on the face of that board pick up a little bit of that color, reliquify it, pick it up with my tissue. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to extend the cracks in the board by lifting out the color in the dark area up here. Same way on this one here. Just water on my brush, and I'm just reliquifying and lifting out some color there to extend where the cracks in the board are. One more area. We'll do that one. Now, there would also be a little bit of a shadow in this area. So I'm going to put a little shadow right here if the light's coming this way. So right in here, there would be a little shadow. going to pull it out because it's a violet shadow and it doesn't seem to be wanting to work there, so I pulled it out and we'll have a little shadow right in here. Okay, now I've got some cracks in the sidewalk down here, but I want to come up at the top, and underneath this little lip of this old stucco wall we'll put a little shadow effect there as well. And we'll make it an abstract shape rather than a straight line under there, so we'll make it more interesting that way. Then I've got some cracks in the sidewalk down here where the wall meets. If this is an old wall or in a city like St. Augustine or in Savannah, you have all of these interesting little cracks and so forth and crevices where the buildings are creaky and so forth. So, and then we'll have a little bit of a crack in the sidewalk here, like so. Then I can come in and put in a little bit of a area where there's a little more shadow, let's say. On the sidewalk to make it interesting, like so. Just for fun. That's a very simple way of doing an interesting gate. I would encourage you to practice this several times. I think you'll have a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you enjoy this particular lesson plan. Thanks for joining me. I'm Tom Jones.